it is extremely important to understand the difference between demand and quantity demanded. Demand refers to the entire relationship between prices and the quantity of a commodity that people want at each of these prices. So, demand should be always thought as the demand curve itself, whereas quantity demanded refers to one particular point on the demand curve, not the demand curve itself. It's just one particular point. So it refers to how much of the product is demanded at one particular price. So we will now look at an increase in demand versus an increase in quantity demanded. What are the key differences between that? Now, as I have said, demand should be thought as demand curve itself. So if there is an increase in demand, the demand curve would shift to the right. So if this is price, this is quantity demanded, and it will have a downward sloping. So when there is an increase in demand, it would shift to the right. So as you can see, for each price point, now the quantity demanded has actually increased. Now this will happen because of number of reasons. Number one would be, if there's number of consumers have increased, then it also shifts the demand curve to the right. Now we have actually looked at the key determinants which affects the demand. So all of these key determinants will affect the demand curve to shift to the right. So the second key determinant or second cause would be the consumer income. If the consumer income increases, then the quantity demand of that particular commodity would also increase and the demand curve would shift to the right, and for each price point there would be more quantity demanded. And the third one would be if there's an increase in the substitutes. I have given the example of Samsung and iPhone, and let's assume that both these commodities are actually normal goods. So if the price of iPhone increases, the quantity of Samsung would increase, so the demand curve will shift to the right. So the fourth reason would be an increase in consumers' tastes. If everybody likes and there is ongoing viral about a particular phone, and if people are willing to buy and their preference is towards it, then it would actually shift the demand curve to the right. And finally, the expectations. If the expected price are going to increase in the future, it is going to shift the demand curve to the right at this moment. However, if you look at the increase in quantity demanded, which is slightly different because the curve doesn't shift itself. So this would be price and quantity demanded. So quantity demanded is actually one particular point, one particular price point, and the only reason the quantity demand is going to increase is when the price is going to drop. So if this is B, it becomes B dash. Now the quantity demand has increased, as you can see, but it actually moves along the line, but there is no difference in the shift of the demand curve. So these are two very important concepts to understand. So in terms of an equation, if you were to put it as quantity demanded is actually equivalent to 7 minus 2p. It's a linear equation for us to understand. The demand would be the equation itself, but the quantity demanded would be for one particular price. So we can represent this p to be 1. So 2 into 1 would be 2. So 7 minus 2 would be 5. So quantity demanded for that particular price would be 5 when the price is equivalent to 1. So this concludes our video on the differences between demand versus quantity demanded.